Welcome, welcome. Jamie Hernandez here, founder of Breakthrough Yoga Coaching Method, helping you bridge the gap between your spiritual practice and your business. And also helping high achievers, highly attuned entrepreneurs to heal. And one of the things that we can consider is that today's practice, and this is an embodiment practice, so sometimes it's more of a training and sometimes a little bit more involved where we do some meditation or we do a little bit of body work. And so today's practice is called clearing the noise. And what we have to understand is that our thoughts create form. So our thought is like a wave, and then that wave becomes an atom, and then it becomes a thing. And then in the collective, we have these many kind of atoms and thought forms in the etheric field. And what we have to understand is that these thought forms, although we cannot see them, are still affecting us collectively. And so it's important to learn how to clear the noise in your own mind, but also clear the noise of everything around you, because we're always constantly receiving information from everything and everywhere, you know? And so what we want to do otherwise, because what starts to happen is if we don't clear the noise, we start to receive information from everything and everywhere, and we also start to receive information based on our memory. And our memory is a piece of data that has already been there. So in some ways, it's not necessarily a direct message from what I would call your soul or your guides, or because there could be many messages, right, from the aspect of ourself which is not something that is in the memory bank of our experience. It's kind of like it's basically, when you think about your intuition, it's kind of like that thing. Intuition, the way I would describe it, is that thing that you've always known. So all of us, we come here on earth, and since we were young, we always kind of knew something about ourselves. We always felt or seen ourselves do something in this world, right? We come on this planet to experience something. Our soul comes on this planet to experience something. So if something is happening in your life that is repetitive and you have resistance towards it, which is pretty much all human beings, then that's mostly one of the things that you're here to experience. And at the same time, the soul is here to fulfill a potential reality, right? And there are many potential realities, and that's why we have free will here on earth. So the purpose on maybe a spiritual level, and even just on a practical level, to clear the noise, is so that you can hear your soul. And when the soul gives you guidance, it's outside of the known, it's outside of the memory bank. So very often our human instinct is to be afraid of what we see ourselves doing here on earth. You know, it's like, I was talking to a client the other day, and she's like, I've always seen myself speaking around in front of like thousands of people. I don't know why, but I've always seen that. And let me know in the comments if you have something like that. You've always seen yourself doing something. So just take a moment to just think about that. You know, I'm taking this dance training and I'm coaching in it, and I always remember when I was younger that I've been dancing in front of the mirror, not for performance, but more of I guess almost therapeutic place. I've always done that. I've always done movement. Hi, Eileen, right? And so there's something, right? And let me know for you, Eileen, like there's something that you've always known about yourself. There's something that you've always seen yourself doing, right? And so when we clear the noise, that channel, that voice becomes more clear. But here's the thing, just because we hear it it does not mean that we have sometimes the courage to go and do it. Okay? So we clear the noise and we hear the soul, and the soul will constantly speak to us, whether it's a whisper, whether it's a loud knock at the door, or it kind of takes you out and all of a sudden you kind of have to reflect on your direction in life. Okay, sort of happens that way. So let me know in the comments if in your life you're going down a certain path and it just you had this kind of like kind of nagging feeling, and then all of a sudden you had this big knock at the door, and then all of a sudden, like, I don't know, you got sick or you got into some kind of like accident or something like that. Hopefully nothing too serious, but that's when the soul is kind of like, yeah, okay, we're sort of like helping you steer in a different direction. And the other thing it does when we clear the noise is that we as human beings, we kind of think we're like just solo here in this whole entire universe. When we have guidance from life, right, in many different forms. It could be our spirit guides, it could be nature, it could be our ancestral line from way back when, it could be Mother Earth, right? So all of these beings are conscious, and we can tune into them if we clear the noise, right? And then from there, what happens is, and what I want to practice today is, once we clear the noise and we can hear our souls calling, and we can hear different guides guiding us, there's an element of fear that we will never, as human beings, not experience. So one of the antidotes to that, to working with our fear, is starting to trust, right? And how do we do that? We don't do that intellectually. Well, from an embodiment practice, we do that in the body. So when you start to trust your own body, right, then you develop trust. And that's the portal of your soul. Your soul is always going to speak to you in a feeling, in a voice, in a sensation, right? And so we want to start to develop that trust. And then take action based on even the things that we are afraid of. Okay, so that's sort of the journey. I don't know if that it starts to become clear for you. So we clear the noise, right? We listen and we hear the soul. We understand that we're not just here alone. We have guidance, right? And then there's an element of natural instinctual fear that we must develop a different relationship with, because it's not like the fear will ever go away. It is a different relationship to it. So then we develop a different frequency around that, and then that starts to shift humanity, and it starts to shift human consciousness. Yeah, so that's sort of like the many layers of what this work can do on an individual basis, but also on a collective basis. Because when we clear the noise, then we also affect the field around us. So if you've ever been to like a meditation center or somebody's house who's who meditates a lot, you're going to sense that the thought forms are not necessarily so dense. And if you walk into a space where you feel maybe somebody has just fought, or there's a certain, you're going to feel those thought forms. Okay, so I want to help you practice clearing the thought forms in your own mind, clearing the thought forms in your own field, but also clearing your thought forms in your actual physical space. And here's the thing, we are constantly walking through fields of energy and fields of thought forms, and if we're not conscious of it, then it kind of like sort of comes on like glasses. Like I was at, I'll tell you this last story and then we'll go into the practice, but I went to a experience the other day, and the thought form was like, oh, there's a lot of snobby people there, right? So here it is, here's the glasses. So then when those people walked into that space, the thought form of seeing and perceiving snobby people was there. And not to say that there wasn't, but everything we're experiencing is coming from behind our eyes, not in front of us. I'll say that again. Everything we're experiencing is coming from behind our eyes, not in front of us, right? And I decided I'm going to go there and I want to have fun. That's my intention. So I'm smiling at everyone and they're smiling back at me, right? If I wasn't smiling and I only saw snobby people, then I'd be not smiling and they'd be not smiling. And then it would have that, what's that? There's a word for it. Confirmation bias that, oh yes, there are snobby people here. Yes? Okay? So we literally create our reality from within. This is not a esoteric thing. It literally, like whoever's watching this, whether you're watching the live or the replay, hashtag live or replay, you are receiving the same message, but you're all experiencing it differently. There could be 100 people on a beach and they're experiencing the beach, but all of them are experiencing it differently. Do you see now how that is? So that's why it's so important to clear the noise so that you can go from your inner guidance, because that's going to be your most powerful tool here on earth. You know, the ability to trust yourself, because when it comes down to it, the truth, your truth is your truth, and nobody can give that to you other than your higher self, that is your body living in your mind and in your soul. Okay? So what we will do is just take a moment, okay, to close your eyes wherever you are. Just close your eyes. Maybe even if you're moving or you're cleaning or whatever it is, just close your eyes and just kind of notice your own buzz and your own thought form. What's going on? Is there a lot going on? Is it numb? Is it like, what is that feeling, especially around your neocortex or your head? What is the thought form that you're putting like 80% of your energy in? Okay, now take a breath in, breath out. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe and we're going to imagine more space in our mind. So breathe, more space. You can close your eyes and exhale. You're going to empty. Empty, empty, empty. So you just imagine your body emptying of just any excess energy that is not needed. And you don't have to know what that is. Just know that, okay, I'm going to clear, 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 empty, empty, empty. And then every time I breathe in, I create space. And you literally feel it and see it. And you let that space become really big. So you could even imagine like a big white infinite space in your mind. A big white infinite space in your mind. And again, from the head all the way down, you exhale and you empty out. And stay in the feeling and the imagination of this. And at your own pace, so we're probably breathing differently, you continue that practice of breathing in, space, clear the mind, breathing out, empty, 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 clear, clear, clear. And now see if you can do this on your own. So close your eyes, do it on your own. And the thing is to take your time. Take your time so that you can feel what you're doing. So try not to speed it up or be in this doing mode. Just be in this being mode. Feel what's happening. Imagine what's happening. And then watch your mind, because your mind sometimes is not trained in being focused like this. So if the mind is kind of wandering away, you just place it on what you're doing. So you breathe in, and in your mind you say space. You breathe out, empty. And you can even have your hands do it too if you like. Space. Empty. And every time you empty, just feel what's on the ground. Maybe your sitting bones, maybe your feet, maybe your seat. Just feel. Anchor yourself into the ground. Breathe, create space. Empty, but stay grounded in the body. Exhale. Inhale. So let's try for 1 minute on your own, at your own pace. Again, watch when the mind wanders. Simply just let it name what it's happening. I'm creating space, space, empty. And just kind of watch how your mind likes to function. Sometimes your mind has like this running, constant running commentary. So we kind of have to train the mind. Space. And let it focus and return. What are we doing, mind? We're creating space. And we're empty. This is really important. We pick up our phone, forget what the hell we were on there for, and then 1 hour later we're like, what did I just do? And then the one thing that you were supposed to do, you don't do. And that's a lack of focus in the mind and the receiving information without having that clarity. Okay, so as an entrepreneur, as a human, this is important. Tactic, strategy is to be more effective in the way you move about your day. And you kind of also just watch the judgments, the confusion, all of it. Okay, so breathe in space, big white space. Breathe out, empty, 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 empty. And take a moment just to check in how this feels. Now, for some of us who have so much thought form and so much agitation in the nervous system, it's really hard to kind of like get to that place where we feel empty. So it just means that we kind of need to do practice it a little bit more. It's like being thirsty and you didn't drink enough water, and I ask you, like, do you feel like you drank enough? And you're like, right? So it's the same thing. This kind of emptying practice is a training of the mind. And if this is the first time you've done this, sometimes it might not feel like that big white space. And sometimes you may not feel that clearing. Okay, so if that's the case, we'll move a little bit more in the body, and that will help start to regulate your nervous system. And it will also help entrain the mind and having kind of these like clear spaces. Because when you have the clear spaces, what also happens is that answers start to come to you. So many of our clients, they're constantly like kind of like wondering, what's my next step in my business and in my life? Where am I going? And that in our sessions, what happens is that all of the worries and all of the stuff kind of like vomits out, right? And then we do a regulating practice, and then they start talking about just like what they imagine their life to be. And all of a sudden you see the shift in this flow state that they don't even realize. It's just like almost like they're talking to a friend and like, oh, I would love if I taught meditation to like these people, or I taught dance to this person, or I did this healing work that I've always known to be good. And they just talk about it, and it would be so cool. And the way I see it is like this. And then it's like this answer that comes in this flow state because you created space, because creativity requires space. And answers are not found, they actually come to you and through you. And so it's the practice of then noticing the answers and then taking actions, right? Taking a small action towards that. Because here's the indecision spiral. We get all clear, we feel all high, we feel all great. And then we don't take that freed up energy and put it even in a small action, like, okay, I'm gonna go do this thing. I gotta write down my ideas, and like maybe I just go buy white paper and a pen, right? Just like any action that moves you a little bit closer. Now, some of us, especially high achievers, might go a little bit faster than that, but it really depends on your energy space. Some people, they take action really slow, and some take really fast, and some in between. And so it's important that the next step after clearing space is to take one small action. And that's one of the things I help our clients do, is like, what is the next most obvious action, energetically and financially? Because in business, we kind of have to understand, right? It's like, we don't want to, okay, well, 5 years, once I get my psychology degree, then I'm going to start having clients. Yes, maybe. And sometimes it's just like, well, you probably have 1 or 2 people that you already can have clients with, because especially if you've been in this healing field, you probably have decades and decades and decades and decades of experience that you can offer now. And that's the thing, right? For us healers, is that what seems so basic and obvious to us is not basic and obvious to most of the mass, right? This clearing of the mind might be really kind of a simple practice, but do most of our people do it around us? Very unlikely, no. If you kind of watch people, they're kind of like always on go mode in a highly kind of slightly stressed state. And I'm not saying I'm never that way, but it's these kind of fundamentals. So let's start by just standing up and then starting to move into the physical, just so that it can also help you. So if ever you're feeling, again, in this place where you're trying to find clarity, that clearing meditation can help. And if you still feel like, oh, okay, that was good, but I still need a little bit more to kind of shake it off, right? We can start with just feeling our feet on the floor. So we can just start by feeling the feet on the floor and just walking in place. Breathing in, space. Breathing out, empty. So you start to put your body in movement, basic movements. And then you continue this practice, because maybe the body is still, the body and the mind go in the same momentum. So if the body's agitated, the mind is going to go fast too. And if the mind is fast, the body's going to feel agitated. So we kind of almost want to put them in the same rhythm. And for some of us, the walking is an entry point, but some of us might need to move faster and some of us might need to move slower. But first things first, just get into motion, right? So maybe your motion is this. So just start to feel like, what is it that my body needs? Does it need more momentum, or does it need kind of like a little bit more speed that is a bit slow? Like, just start to feel what it is for you, okay? And this is that trust. Okay, so you start to trust your body. You know, maybe your body's like, you know, and maybe your body's like, okay, right? So it's not my movement that I want you to follow. It's your movements, and that's how you begin to trust yourself. Right? You're not thinking it out. You're not trying to reason. You're feeling for the impulse, for the response in the body. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, so all of a sudden, that's why when you go on for a walk, right, it kind of clears your mind, right? Okay, so if you're wherever you are, and then you can kind of let the mind kind of follow something that is a little bit more complex. Walking back, walking forth, walking back, walking forth. Breathe in space, breathe out empty. Breathe in space, breathe out empty. Breathe out space, empty. Right? So you start to let the physical body now kind of take over a little bit. Okay? So you're walking back and forth. What if you walk from side to side? Breathe out space, empty. And again, if you're like, whoa, it's getting too complicated now, then just go back to what you feel. Maybe it's really here. Maybe it's here. Maybe it is here. Or maybe it's more complex and you're just like, ooh, okay, I like this. But you stay with the practice of breathing in space, breathing out. Breathing in space, breathing out. Okay? And start to feel your feet on the floor. Okay? And now when we're ready, we're going to breathe your arms up and around. Exhale, shift your hips back. Hands in the legs, inhale, lift. Hands down the legs, exhale, fold. Breathe your arms up and around. And if this is too complicated, go back to the beginning. Breathe your arms up and around. Exhale, clear the space. Inhale. Exhale, empty. Inhale, space. Clear your mind. Inhale. Exhale, fold forward. Your toes are pointing forward, your heels are in line with your hips. Exhale, forward. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, space. Exhale. And here's the thing. The practice doesn't have to be complex. Exhale here. But what it has to do is that you want to practice long enough that you actually start to feel the effects. Because here's what the mind will do. Oh, yeah, I got that, JB. Good. Cool. And then all of a sudden there's all of this noise happening again in the mind. Near the space. It's kind of like being in nature and you're there long enough and all of a sudden your nervous system completely changes. It's that same thing. You kind of have to bathe in the nature or the water long enough until you feel emptied. Okay? Okay, so if you're standing, breathing in, clearing the space. Breathing in, clearing the space. Okay? And get really discerning between knowing something and experiencing something. Two different things. Okay? Because all of this seems so simple to the mind that it will think, oh yeah, I got that. And then we go back out and we're like constantly bombarded with noise and collective thought form. Feel your feet on the floor. Another thing that you can do is literally physically, okay? So if you're kind of feeling up there, up in your head, you can physically start to kind of clear your energetic field on a physical level, okay? This is really good if you've been in a crowd, right? Or you've been like just in a lot of thought form, whether with yourself or in a meeting, right? Or a party or a social situation, okay? Because all of that thought form now, you're kind of like bathing in that fragmented frequency. And then the back. Okay, so don't take it for granted, these simple exercises. Shake it out. Now, once you're this empty vessel, right, you want to make sure that your energetic force field is not just this open space, because otherwise what's going to happen is that there's just going to be a lot of receiving, which is nice, but we need a little bit of, it's kind of like when you put lotion on your skin, we just need a little bit of a frequency to hold our own center. So a fun thing to do is to imagine that you just have like this golden eraser. And you're just kind of like erasing, and at the same time, you're just like coloring all of your cells in your body. So do that now. And you're literally changing the frequency. Go all the way down. Your legs, your ankles, your feet. And go all the way back. And just feel any kind of areas of tension and just see if you can imagine that golden eraser just erasing it all. Okay? Breathe in, draw in. Breathe down. And now you have this energetic force field all around you. You can imagine like this dome all around you. Okay? And you can imagine filling that with whatever color you want. I'm going to use gold. Okay? So you imagine this like force field of energy, which is your energetic vibration, your vibe, your energy signature. You just imagine it all around you. Filling with my color is gold, that radiant color, whatever it is, just let me know. And again, trust yourself. Whatever comes first, trust it. Let it just fill front, side, back, up and down. Okay. And around this force field, imagine a golden shield or whatever shield color you like, so that you stay in your center and you remember who you are and why you're here. Because when you can stay in your center, then you come back to remembering, because that's what intuition is. Intuition is remembering who you are and why you're here. And it's something that you've always known. That's the thing. It's not like this fancy thing. Okay? So you know, my buddy who was kind of feeling the snobism, right? Um, you know, that's one of the things I asked him. It's like, well, who are you and why are you here? Are you here to have fun? Are you here to learn? Are you here to experience? What is it? Right? And life is that way. If we don't clear the noise, we're going to be constantly pulled by the collective thought form, the mass thought form. If you watch TV, you know, and you notice like all of a sudden you're hungry, you know, it's a thought form that wasn't there before, but all of a sudden you're getting these flashes of like, what do you call it, food, and then you want them, right? Or the all of a sudden like a car that you never even want, you're like, whoa, wow, that'd be so fun to have that, right? Okay, so easily how our mind is very malleable and can take in and receive information, which is great, but we want to understand, well, what's my own truth, right? What are the answers and the thoughts that are coming directly from my soul, or being supported by my ancestors or my guides around me, or by life or by nature, right? All of it is a support for you. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you did the practice and how that feels. For some reason it doesn't show up in real time, so I'm gonna have to look at it after, okay? But if you're feeling lost, right, or you're feeling overwhelmed, it is most likely because there's just too much noise in your head, in the collective thought forms. And it's in your field of energy, in your somatic field of energy, in your body and in your field, your actual field, and actually even in your physical space. Yeah? So if you ever walk into somebody's house that feels very kind of chaotic, and you know, like you can kind of feel all of the thought forms kind of like, you know, floating around. And that's why in nature it's beautiful, because those thought forms are naturally kind of cleared away by nature, and the trees and the air and the earth naturally transmute them, right? But if you don't have that access to nature, which is another way of kind of clearing the noise, or water, or whatever that is, then you can physically do it yourself like we did today, right? And you can do it at the beginning of the day, maybe in your shower, or at the end of the day right before you go to bed. And I suggest, if you're going to integrate this practice, do it with something that you always do. If it's brushing your teeth, if it's taking a shower, if it's putting on your pajamas, something that you always do. Pair, if you want to inhabit something new, you inhabit it with something that you've always done, like almost subconsciously. Yeah? Making breakfast, you're clearing. Yeah? So make it easy for yourself. Otherwise, you might have this kind of like, oh, I have to like have the incense and everything has to be quiet, which is great if you can do that, but unlikely that you'll be able to do that every day. And the more you kind of integrate it into your mundane, the more you can do it in those spaces where you have more time to go to a park or be in your empty room or bathroom. Yeah? So I want to know for you now, okay, if there is anything, once we've kind of emptied the noise, here's the thing. Did you hear any answers or insights that came to you? And sometimes they're not obvious because we're not listening. And maybe you didn't, but maybe you did. Now, what is that thing? You can write it in the comments or write it down on your journal. Because that's the point of the clearing the noise too, is just to get to that next step of, well, what's that answer, right? And if not, do it for the whole week. And what's the answer that comes to you? Okay, so let's just take a moment. Now that we've just been in the practice, breathe in, breathe out. And we ask our higher self, we ask our guides, just to offer us an answer that we can receive and understand. and offer us the next obvious action. And just take a moment to listen. And sometimes what you hear is nothing, and that means probably that there just needs to be more space or just more time or more pause. And sometimes it's just that it's going to be like a dream, so we kind of want to catch it. So write that down and see if you can take action on that thing. Okay? If you need help, right, in just going deeper, right, in your practice to gain more clarity, yeah? And to continue to move in the direction of your entrepreneurial life and your life in general, right? Then let me know, because with our clients, that's what we do. We start to strategize on a spiritual level and strategize on a business level. Where are we going, and how can we take the next most obvious action? And that's, I would say, probably what keeps us stuck, is that we know the answer, but we don't necessarily have a container or a direction or a focus or a mirror or somebody to keep us accountable to take that next most obvious action. Okay? So if you're interested in that container, because that's a container I'm going to build this year, where we're going to do somatic practices and then learn in the finding that clarity, what's the next most profitable action in our business, and what is the most energetic action in our business, that in our life, right? Because both of those, as somebody who's highly sensitive, highly attuned, but a high achieving human being here on earth, we need that. Otherwise we can kind of stay in this sort of lull of relaxing and then going back into panic, relaxing and going back into panic. And there needs to be that space where you have somebody who can mirror back to you what it is that your soul has directly said out loud. That's what I do. I always kind of reflect back to you your truth. And then together we start to figure out what's the next most obvious action. And then we create a container and a series of kind of action steps to make that happen. Because your life and your success is based on your habits and your actions, right? Because we can have all the greatest ideas in the world and feel enlightened and in bliss or whatever it is, but if we don't take action here on earth, nothing's really going to happen for us, right? And we're really good at going into the bliss and the healing, but sometimes when we want to actually get our SHIT done, we can get stuck for weeks, months, years, lifetimes, okay? So if you're ready for just first figuring out like what's in the way, right? Physically, mentally, and energetically, and gaining clarity on where you want to go, right? Then DM me and let me know, Jamie, I'm ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call. And on that call, we are going to look where the imprint in your physical body, mind, and energy, where those core woundings are in your body, so that we can then gain clarity of where you want to go in your business, in your life, in your relationships. Okay? So you DM me, let me know, Jamie, I'm ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call. I'm going to send you an application, right? And then on that call, we're going to go through on an actual healing level, physically, mentally, energetically, what is holding you back, so that can be the domino effect to continue to help you move forward in your business and in your life. And so that, and also Katie will eventually put the Calendly link in the comments as well. So that is it for me. I hope this clearing the noise helped you, and you can always come back and do it over and over again. But in the comments, I want to hear, were there any insights, and how was that practice for you? Did you receive anything, or did anything happen? Okay, let me know. And otherwise, I will see you next week, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here in the discipline of business and yoga. Bye, everybody. Thanks.